It's crazy to think that the video game industry has been going strong for over 60 years. And in that time, we've seen our fair share of mascots and series come and go. While some were able to withstand the test of time, others not so lucky. Keeping a series going for 10, 20, or even 30 plus years is no simple task. And more often than not, one of the key components for longevity is evolution.
A series that fails to adapt and change with the times becomes stagnant. What was once new and exciting 40 years ago is now stale and boring. But there is one series that understands and embraces this truth. So grab your T-51 power armor and prepare for nuclear winter, because this is media philosophy examining the deeper side of innovation in gaming with Fallout.
The Fallout of the late 90s is nothing like the Fallout of today. The original three games were a point and click adventure game that leaned heavily on RPG elements. And this was back in the days where games were designed to be really hard, where if you didn't meticulously think about how to spend your skill points, you might find yourself in an unwinnable state. And you had so much freedom to roleplay, like, depending on your stats, your character might sound smart or a bumbling idiot.
This Vault 13, where is it located? That must be your IQ on your jumpsuit, not a vault number.
While the first two games were masterpieces in their own right, it was hard for developers to achieve their vision when this was the height of graphics for the time. So of course they had to make some compromises.
After Fallout 1 and 2, things went pretty quiet for a bit, but something big was bubbling beneath the surface. Q 2008 and Fallout 3 rocked the gaming world.
The developers took note of how the gaming industry changed in just 10 short years as first-person shooters began dominating the market. So, while dialogue choices and skill checks were still important to the game, they started taking a back seat to the gunfights. And just like with Fallout 2, in 2010, New Vegas came out and just improved on every single aspect of Fallout 3. While Bethesda and Obsidian struck gold again, it couldn't last forever. The gaming industry would again be shaken up as titles such as Minecraft came onto the market. Having quests that led to some sort of endgame became less important as gamers just had more fun building their world. So Fallout 4 would adapt to this shift by throwing radiant quests at the player and letting them just build their settlements. This came at a cost though, as first-person shooter elements increased, while the RPG mechanics were all but done away with. And Fallout still isn't done innovating and trying new stuff, as they've just dipped their toes into the realm of MMORPGs.
And before I get any angry messages from all 6 of you watching, yes, I am aware of Fallout Tactics and Brotherhood of Steel. I just consider them more like spin-offs. Like, I wouldn't mention Sonic Spinball or Mario is Missing in a video about mainline Mario and Sonic games. But to further this point, both of these games continue this trend of change by either focusing on strategic combat or completely changing the gameplay.
For the last 20 plus years, the Fallout series has maintained mostly positive praise. Mostly. Because of their willingness to change. There have been numerous once great series that just fizzle out, like Guitar Hero, 007, Tony Hawk. One series that just breaks my heart to talk about in this context is Star Fox. In the first Star Fox, you fly on a rail, choose different paths, and fight Andross. In Star Fox 64, you fly on a rail, choose different paths, and fight Andross. The developers did try to shake things up a little in Star Fox Assault by writing a more in-depth story and adding various mission types. While this was a step in the right direction, they totally backpedaled into old bad habits with Star Fox 3D and Zero, which are basically just remakes of the original Star Fox and Star Fox 64. While Star Fox Command was no masterpiece, at least they tried innovating by adding some strategic elements and loads of different fighters with unique abilities. I don't know why they couldn't take a chance and experiment with some of these new changes. And don't any of you dare mention Star Fox Adventures, because it was never meant to be a Star Fox game in the first place. It was going to be a standalone game until someone had the bright idea of shoehorning Star Fox into it by adding Andross as the final boss without any foreshadowing.
And I don't even care if that's a spoiler. Lazy writing can't be a spoiler. That'd be like making a Zelda game where Link flies off into space and then randomly fights Ganon in the end.
When evolving a game series, it still needs to maintain those key staples. And Fallout does this masterfully. They make sure to include special points, major factions, and certain enemies in believable ways while still embracing the new direction in these gaming trends. And of course, this isn't some sort of divine law. There are plenty of titles that hardly change but still make boatloads of cash, like any EA Sports game or the Call of Duty franchise. Take a game like Zelda that, on the surface, looks like it's always the same, but is actually always so different. Even from the first to the second game, Nintendo was willing to completely change the gameplay. And from then on, the worlds, art styles, and circumstances are all so new and unique that they're hardly the same game, even if they do follow some basic pattern.
While trying to keep games fresh can help, it does risk alienating those longtime fans. It's easy to see how someone who grew up with the original Fallout could be annoyed and let down with the direction the series has gone. A game that once let you blow up kids has now dumbed down the dialogue trees to the point where every decision brings about the same conclusion.
People can be resistant to change. Even though Resident Evil 7 and 8 breathed fresh air into the franchise, some purists thought that Resident Evil should never be a first-person game.
While it's hard to see some of your most beloved games change before your very eyes, it's important to recognize that for a series to survive, it needs to appeal to the next generation of gamers. I mean, how many people who played the original Super Mario Bros. For the NES bought Odyssey? Like almost every aspect of life, change is necessary. And if anything, a game like Fallout shows that they can keep their core identity while still focusing on innovation. And yes, the original titles are still great, but I think gamers expect a little bit more from a AAA title than a point-and-click adventure. This has been Media Philosophy, examining the deeper side of entertainment.